Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, February 25th at 10:55 a.m. The first item on our agenda is roll call. I do want to welcome Stephanie Holloway from Placer County and Murphy Abear. Am I saying your last name right? I really hope so.
You are. Thank you.
Secretary Aguilar's office. Good morning and welcome. And Maria, can you please call the roll?
Miss Alding here. Miss Abear.
Here.
Mr. Bass.
Here.
Miss Conrad Seda. Miss Conrad Seda, can you hear us? Circle back. Miss Faustinos.
Here.
Miss Holloway.
Here.
Miss Hayes. Miss Hill.
Here.
Mr. Henningman.
Here.
Mr. Keykefer. Miss Lane.
Here.
Miss Loomer.
Here.
Mr. Rice.
Here.
Mr. Settlemeyer.
Here.
Miss Williamson.
Here.
And Miss Conrad Seda, can you hear us? Okay, she is online, maybe muted. Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Just a quick reminder to remote committee members, please do not use the chat box to make any comments or have sidebar conversations, and please click the raise hand button to get my attention if you'd like to speak. Next up is the Pledge of Allegiance. Can everyone stand, please? Great, thank you. And our next agenda item is our period of public comment. Agenda item number 3, this is our public comment period for any items on the agenda. Any member of the public wishing to address the governing board on any agenda item, including items on the consent calendar, may do so at this time. We will limit public comment to 3 minutes per speaker. We are going to start in the room. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment at this time that's in the room?
Got it. Stayed on. Cool. Good morning, Madam Chair, board members. For the record, my name is Jim Drennan. I'm the fire chief for City of South Lake Tahoe Fire. I'm also sit as the chair for the Lake Tahoe Regional Fire Chiefs Association. On your agenda today is, I believe, the permits and the approval for the Public Safety Training Center out of Lake Tahoe Community College. I just want to speak in full support of that project. I was lucky enough over 20 years ago to be part of an ad hoc committee in 2005, actually sort of penciling this out on napkins, what the academy might look like, and got to teach the academy early on and also train a number of firefighters who went on to teach at the academy. The value of that program really can't be measured here in the region. It's something that some of the former chiefs that I worked underneath had been envisioning for decades, honestly. Having the public safety center here on the South Shore, especially right in the middle of South Lake Tahoe, where it's centrally located to 3 separate fire departments, and then regionally available to all the rest in the basin. It's incredible to see that coming forward. What they're able to build on that lot and the ability for our department and our neighboring agencies to be able to go and train, as opposed to like showing up to somebody's private residence and trying to throw ladders or pull hose. It provides consistent training. It provides real professional level teaching and educational experience, and it really sets up the next generation of firefighters for the area. So I just want to speak in full support of that. If you have any questions for me, you can sidebar me on the side, but thank you for the time.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room wishing to make comment at this time? Come on up.
Good morning, Chair, members of the governing board. Laura Patton, Natural Resource Director at the League to Save Lake Tahoe, or Keep Tahoe Blue. I'm going to comment on the threshold item that is before you today. Keep Tahoe Blue really appreciates the significant work by TRPA staff, the Tahoe Science Advisory Council, and really all of the basin partners who have come together. And really that work has been reflected in both the water quality and forest health threshold updates that are before you today. We really support the direction of these updates and the continued effort to update and modernize the thresholds so that they really remain science-based, measurable, and outcome-focused. Clear outcome-based threshold standards really help the public and the decision makers understand whether environmental goals are actually being achieved while maintaining protections through TRPA code, the Environmental Improvement Program, and importantly, through TMDL implementation. We strongly support the forest health threshold update, recognizing fire as a natural ecological process and managing forests for resilience rather than static conditions really reflects the best available science and is essential to protecting our forests, watersheds, and water quality. At the same time, we really encourage TRPA to commit to updating all of the remaining thresholds before the next threshold evaluation cycle. Evaluating basin conditions against outdated standards, some of them are from 1982, really doesn't fully meet the compact's mandate and really risks limiting the effectiveness of the threshold program and the environmental improvement program moving forward. The forest health update really shows that meaningful modernization is achievable, and we're really encouraging TRPA to really continue that momentum today and into the future across all of those resource areas. I will also comment briefly on the proposed 2026 watercraft inspection fee schedule, changing gears here, which is on the consent calendar today. We really are just proud to support the work of TRPA in aquatic invasive species prevention overall, and we really strongly support the watercraft inspection fee schedule updates. We especially appreciate the simplified decontamination schedule and the 50% discount for vessels that arrive clean, drained, and dried. That staggered approach really creates a clear incentive for responsible boater behavior while ensuring the program can really sustainably cover the cost of mandatory decontaminations with the threat of golden mussels really knocking on our door here in Tahoe. So thank you. I hope you can support both of those items.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room wishing to make comment? Come on up.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members. My name is Bob Larson. I serve as the program officer for the Tahoe Science Advisory Council, and I work with the California Natural Resources Agency. I'm here this morning to comment on the forest health and wildfire threshold standards. As you may know, as part of the process, TRPA engaged with the council to coordinate an independent peer review of the proposal package. A full summary of the review and the detailed comments are available online. I just want to share a few thoughts with you. First, I want to thank Drs. Hugh Safford and Patricia Manley for their time and thoughtful feedback during the process. They both reviewed early draft proposals. They met with staff several times and were able to share their ideas, express some concerns, and offer suggestions for improving the package. Next, I want to stress that the proposal today before you is a very important step forward. Both reviewers found that the updated thresholds are consistent with current science, and both agree that the selected metrics reflect the core drivers of forest health and wildfire risk. These standards represent a long overdue update of the current system. That said, the reviewers did identify a number of opportunities to strengthen the program in the future. They emphasized the need to refine project performance metrics so TRPA and its partners can assess other ecosystem benefits such as old growth quality, biodiversity, and carbon sequestration. Furthermore, the reviewers encouraged TRPA to consider complementary metrics such as stand density indices, and the reviewers noted the importance of investing in regular monitoring to support the adaptive management process in the face of climate change. Taken together, the peer review findings support moving forward now while offering guidance for further refinement. Putting on a different hat, I want to mention that TRPA did reach out to staff from the Governor's Wildfire and Forest Resilience Task Force to ensure that the new standards align with statewide forest health and wildfire resilience priorities. There are obvious differences in scale, but the Tahoe Basin efforts are consistent with and will contribute to the broader California forest management strategies. This alignment both strengthens the scientific credibility and the relevance of these proposed standards moving forward. So with that, I'd like to encourage the board to approve the proposed updates as they set a strong foundation for scientific accountability and continued improvement in our forests. I'll just close by saying that, as Ms. Patton mentioned, there are more standards to update in the future, and I look forward to further science management dialogue on that effort. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Okay, can we go online then, please, to see if we have hands raised?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have 3 hands raised online. 4 hands raised online. The first hand up is Zoom user Q. Q, if you can state your full name for the record and unmute to make your comment.
Protected disability has been rejected. I protected disability. My larynx has rejected me.
And the next one, please.
The next hand raised is Ann Nichols. Ann, please unmute to make your comment.
Yeah, thank you. Ann Nichols, North Tahoe Preservation Alliance. Good morning, Chair and members of the board. I appreciate the effort to modernize and align threshold standards with adaptive management principles. However, the proposal before you appears to do more than administrative restructuring. Removing 26 existing water quality threshold standards, particularly pollutant load reduction and discharge standards, materially changes how environmental carrying capacities are defined and enforced under the compact. Pollutant load is not merely a management input, it's the direct causal driver of Lake Tahoe clarity decline. These load reduction standards have served as measurable, enforceable benchmarks that provide early detection when we are off track. Reclassifying them as performance standards or code provisions lowers their legal structure and potentially narrows the scope of compact level protections. Before adopting a finding of no significant effect, I respectfully urge the board to consider whether this restructuring could reasonably be viewed as a substantive amendment to environmental carrying capacities. Given the history of litigation surrounding threshold standards and regional plan amendments, proceeding without a clear and defensible legal record may expose the agency to avoidable challenge. And more broadly, after more than 350 amendments to the 2012 regional plan, it may be time for a comprehensive review rather than incremental structural revisions to the environmental baseline. Thank you.
The next hand raised is Steve Teixeira. Steve, please unmute to make your comment.
Thank you, Catherine, and good morning, board members. Steve Teixeira on behalf of Tahoe Chamber, urging the board to approve the Lake Tahoe Community College Public Safety Training Complex. So I join with Chief Drennan in support of that great project. The Chamber has had an opportunity to work hand in hand with the college over the years to secure funding for that important complex in our community. Also to urge your support for the updates to the water quality environmental threshold carrying capacities, standards, and the forest health and vegetation preservation. I say that not only as a representative of the Chamber, but as the community member on the TRPA threshold update working group. Thank you.
3 more hands are up. The next one is Annabelle Monty. Annabelle, please unmute to make your comment.
Hi, good morning. My name is Annabelle Monty, and I'm the program manager for the Tahoe Fire and Fuels team. I've previously submitted support and various comments through other meetings leading up to this for the forest health threshold updates, but I want to reiterate that support today. From a basin-wide implementation perspective, these updates represent a necessary evolution for the threshold standards, specifically for forest health concerns. The language that's currently there no longer reflects the realities that we are seeing on the ground. This includes changing wildfire dynamics, climate pressures, and the need for landscape scale restoration. The proposed revisions that the TRPA staff has worked very, very hard on better align with policy as well as the current science and with the management objectives that partners are already working towards in the Tahoe Basin. The Tahoe Fire and Fuels team partners were engaged throughout this process, and I want to give a huge thank you and just express how much we appreciate that the partner feedback and the operational experience from the professional foresters, as well as the fire professionals, were incorporated into the draft standards. The clear, measurable thresholds that these are being proposed as help strengthen the accountability. They also improve adaptive management, and they create a stronger connection between the policy direction and the real world implementation for the projects that are happening on the ground. So in short, these standards that are being updated help ensure that the forest health policy remains relevant and defensible, and it also supports the long-term wildfire resilience for the Lake Tahoe Basin. And I just encourage the adoption by the governing board for these updates as they're proposed. Thank you.
The next hand raised on Zoom is Kenneth. Kenneth, if we could get your full name for the record, and go ahead and unmute to make your comment. Kenneth, I see you're unmuted, but your microphone doesn't.
Larynx has been removed due to a laryngotomy. I am acknowledged to help me with my if they're like F.
I can't hear that. I'm sorry. You're gonna have to try a better connection.
And the last hand raised is Doug Flaherty. Doug, please unmute to make your comment.
Thank you, Chair, members of the governing board. Doug Flaherty, speaking on behalf of me as a private citizen and also as president of Tahoe Clean Air Coalition. I personally and the Tahoe Sierra Clean Air Coalition adopt Ann Nichols' comments as if they were our own and my own, and repeat those comments here for the record. Thank you so much.
And Madam Chair, there are no other hands raised to comment.
Thank you. Let's move on then. We can close the public comment period and move on to approval of the agenda. Julie or staff, are there changes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Julie Reagan, TRPA's Executive Director. Yes, we do have a change. We are at the applicant's request, removing item 7A, the appeal, from the agenda. So we will not be taking that up today.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and deem the agenda approved as amended then for the record. Let's move on to agenda item 5A, which is approval of the minutes. We have a draft set of minutes from the January 28th, 2026 meeting on page 31 of the packet. Does anyone wish to make any changes to the minutes? If not, I will look for a motion to approve.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes from the governing board meeting of January 28th, 2026 as presented.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone object? Anyone object? Thank you. Motion passes. That brings us to agenda item 6, which is the TRPA consent calendar. There are 3 items on consent. Items A and B were reviewed by the Operations and Governance Committee, and item C was not reviewed by any governing board committee. Member Lane, can you please give us a report from this morning's Ops and Governance Committee meeting?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. As you just stated, the Operations and Governance Committee looked at 2 items, item A and item B, that are on consent before you. We are recommending to the board approval of both of those items. Item A were the January financials. The agency continues to track pretty much right at where we expected to be, 7/12 of the way through the year. So both revenues and expenses are within that line. We also received an analysis regarding the TRPA budget. We had received some questions by committee as well as some public comments that there was an appearance that the general fund was really significantly growing compared to around 2020. Mr. Cox showed through a graph that that's mostly been driven by grant funding for different project implementations. So it's really not a significant growth in the general fund. Item B was we received a great update on the 2025 program with regards to watercraft inspection fees. For 2026, staff and the committee are recommending a simplified fee structure with a discount, as the league pointed out in their comments. If you show up clean, drained, and dry, you get a 50% discount on the normal fee. And we're hoping about 50% of the watercraft that showed up last year was clean, drained, and dried, but they still were paying the full fee. So we're hoping to incentivize that behavior and get more people to show up in that way. So that would be the two items. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments on those two consent calendar items before I move on to our third? Can I just clarify with staff really quick with that discount? That doesn't lose us any program funding, does it?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the question. This is Julie Reagan. No, in fact, we believe we have enough to continue to do cost recovery and to make sure that we're staying commensurate with the increases in the program.
Win-win then. Thank you. Let's move on then to consent calendar item C, which is the Lake Tahoe Community College Public Safety Training Complex, including a tarmac, training tower, and storage building, 1 College Drive, South Lake Tahoe, California, APN 025-041-023, TRPA file ERSP 2025-1434. Information on this item is on page 95 of our packet. Does anyone have any questions or comments on this consent calendar agenda item? Okay. If no one has any questions on the consent calendar, I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent calendar. And we have a motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Maria, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Aldine,
Yes.
Mr. Bass,
Yes.
Ms. Aber,
Yes.
Ms. Conrad Seda,
Yes.
Ms. Faustinos,
Yes.
Ms. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Keycapper,
Yes.
Ms. Holloway,
Yes.
Mr. Rice,
Yes.
Mr. Henigman,
Yes.
Mr. Settlemeyer,
Yes.
Ms. Lane,
Yes.
Ms. Loomer,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson.
Yes.
Madam Chair, motion passes.
Thank you. So we're going to skip agenda item 7, which is our appeals that we removed, and we're on to agenda item 8, which is planning matters. 8A is an update to the water quality environmental threshold carrying capacities or threshold standards. Information is on page 155 of our packets, and I would like to turn it over to Dan Segan, please.
While Dan is setting up, Madam Chair, this is Julie Reagan, TRPA's Executive Director. I'm just going to do a quick introduction and then Dan will take it away. I wanted just to provide some thoughts that take you back to our governing board retreat last spring, where we had a lot of conversation around achieving our threshold goals and standards, accelerating progress in that arena, and how we can best work together efficiently between the board and staff to get that done. One of the things that you asked us to do was make a priority over the next year in increasing pace and scale of the work around thresholds. And we did that in our 2025 work plan. And today we're bringing you 2 sets of threshold updates that collectively will bring the total number of thresholds reviewed and updated in the last 2 years to about a third of all standards. So if you think in terms of 140 standards in 10 different categories, we're touching in some way about 50 just in this action today, and then in the previous actions that you've taken in the last couple of years around things like stream environment zones and invasive species. And that is clearly an accomplishment, particularly since we started the work to update thresholds when some of you were in different capacities, even in the legislature hearing these hearings, going back almost 20 years ago. So I wanted to put a fine point on the work of our staff, some of whom are in the audience that are doing the data collection, working day to day, behind the scenes, all the policy work, our community, all the work that you've put forward in working groups and service to this. A big thank you to getting us to this point over the last couple of years. But there is a lot more work to do, as public comment indicated from the League to Save Lake Tahoe, Keep Tahoe Blue. You know, some of our existing standards on the books still go back to the 1970s and the 1980s. So a lot of work remains. We also talked about vetting technical information in committees to be efficient with the use of the time of the full governing board, and empowering our committees and working groups to do that hard, heavy lifting in order to be efficient with your time. We provided you with an overview of work at the October 2025 governing board meeting. And in the last 5 months, we have worked to refine our proposals before you today with our advisory planning commission, the environmental improvement program committee just last month, and the threshold update initiative stakeholder working group, affectionately known as TUI-SWIG, a great acronym. So I'm pleased to report that all 3 of those bodies have made their unanimous recommendations to move this forward. We're going to start with water quality, and then we're going to move into forest health in the next item. And with that, I will turn it over to Dan Segan, our Chief Science and Policy.
Thank you, Director Reagan, Madam Chairwoman, and members of the committee. Dan Segan, TRPA. It's my pleasure to present the first of the 2 threshold standard items to you today. Next slide, please. So there's 2 big parts of our threshold update initiative that we chartered a little over 7 years ago now. So I'm going to do a little bit of a history lesson here as we dive in. So we had the administrative cleanup of our standard, which is really bringing our standards up to snuff with how the Science Advisory Council directed us that standards should be structured. And then there is the substantive changes to our standards. What are we really driving at with those standards and revising those goals to ensure that they reflect modern concerns within our region and the targeted direction of the partnership. The water quality updates that I'll be talking about fall firmly into that administrative side. And then we'll turn it over to Mason Bindle to talk about the substantive updates to our forest standards. Next slide, please. I mentioned our work started about 7 years ago with a report from the Science Advisory Council, who looked around the country at different programs and how they were structuring their standards and gave us some broad recommendations for how we should proceed with updating our standards, the vast majority of which, as Ms. Patton mentioned, dated back to 1980. Next slide, please. And they said the first thing you should do is take stock of where you are today, and you should use the SMART criteria. And perhaps because scientists can't say no, or because of my Boston origin, we ended up with SMART. We had 2 A's because we couldn't say no to both achievable and attributable. We were concerned about both. And we assessed each of our 170 standards at the time against this criteria to give us a stock of where we are today and how much work we need to do to go forward. And that assessment really set the stage for the first part of these administrative updates. Next slide, please. And we did a couple things as part of those. That assessment flagged, first and foremost, standards that were overlapped or were duplicative with one another. And the example on the board today is we had standards within vegetation preservation, wildlife, and soil conservation that all directed us to protect SEZ. And the council said, you can just say it once. You don't need to say it 3 different times and confuse people. And so this board adopted modifications that removed the redundancy while retaining the protection and intent of those standards. Next slide, please. Another part of that effort was we reorganized our standards. And the core part of the reorganization here was we actually put numbers on each of our standards, because if you want to have an informed discussion about what is the content of the standard, you need a way to reference which standard you're actually talking about. Next slide, please. So after we'd gone through, that's the really easy step we did as part of this reorganization. The next thing the council said we needed to do was have an honest discussion about where information fits within our system and what is the role within threshold standards within our system. And the Bi-State Compact is very clear about the role of threshold standards within our system. They are the environmental standards that we are driving towards as a region that are necessary to maintain and protect all of those things we love about Lake Tahoe. So they live at the top of our pyramid. But there's all sorts of other information that's also really important when you're managing towards a big goal. You need to track what you're doing in terms of implementation. You need to monitor results on the ground to make sure you're actually getting what you think you're going to get from that implementation. And then finally, you need to be able to share and report that information with you, the decision makers, and with the general public in a transparent nature. Next slide, please. And so we codified a relatively simple structure that said threshold standards are our ultimate outcomes. And then we are going to track other things like all the hard work that we do and the results of all that hard work in driving towards those standards as performance measures, because those are equally important. Next slide, please. And we actually codified that adaptive management structure within the regional plan and thresholds documents, where you committed the agency to all threshold standard modifications from here on out would be specific, measurable, and outcome-based. Outcome-based meaning focused on the end goal, not an intermediate product. Next slide, please. And so we started this second phase by interrogating each existing threshold standard based on where it lived within that information system. Was it an ultimate outcome? Was it an intermediate result or a tactic that we were utilizing at the time to drive towards that ultimate outcome? Or was it a strategy or activity that we're implementing on the ground? Next slide, please. And the Science Council said something deceptively simple as we were working with on this. They basically said, where you have strategies or tactics, these inputs or intermediate outcomes, just recast them as something else in your system, which in practice becomes hard when it relates to a large swath of your threshold standards. Next slide, please. And so we've worked with the Science Advisory Council over the last couple of years to implement that relatively simple recommendation for our water quality threshold standards. And that's the proposal before you today. And so the council and TRPA and our partners went through and looked at each individual water quality standard and said, where would that live or where should that live in our system? And we've identified where each lives and where each should live in the system of the future. So things like our discharge limits. So these are controls that, and actually are regulatory requirements that we have adopted within our code of ordinance. So anytime you are doing construction on the ground in Tahoe, you need to comply by all of these. These are things that we do to preserve water quality overall, but these are not our end goals. We're asking you to prevent runoff from your property in service of our larger water quality goals. And that's exactly like other regulations within our code of ordinances. Next slide, please. We also are proposing moving our load reduction standards to another part of our system. And I know I want to acknowledge the public comment that we received as part of that. And I'd like to just take a quick moment to reassure you that on the action that we are taking. So if you look at page, excuse me, give me one moment. Page 224 within your packet. One of the items that the Threshold Update Initiative Stakeholder Working Group asked us to do specifically as part of this process was to document our rationale for why we're making the individual decisions that we are recommending for each threshold standard. And so I want to direct you to the lower part of that page. So water quality 34 through 35. And these are all standards that the Science Advisory Council said these are not formulated as specific and measurable outcome-based standards. So I'll just use the example of water quality 34, and I'm going to read the text of the standard to you. Reduce fine sediment particles and inorganic particle size less than 16 micrometers in diameter of load to achieve long-term pelagic water quality standards, water quality 1 and water quality 2. So this standard clearly frames itself not as a specific and measurable target that you can measure how well we did each year, but that as an activity that we should engage in if and until we have achieved our other water quality goals. So there is no endpoint to this load reduction embedded within this standard. I also want to assure you, because I think we heard that there would be some weakening of protection by removing load from this. As many of you know, especially those of you on the local side, we have embedded achieving your TMDL load reduction standards as part of our allocations process. So each year we assess whether or not a local jurisdiction has hit its load reduction targets. And if it is not, they get fewer allocations, residential allocations that year. We are not proposing to modify that through this action. we are maintaining those controls within the appropriate part of the system. And that is the intent of this action, organizing the system so that we all understand what are our ultimate goals and what are those actions and activities we're taking in order to drive to those ultimate goals. Next slide, please. So the recommendation before you retains these 11 standards. Next slide, please. I do want to highlight one modification that we are proposing, which we consider substantive, but which we think is an improvement over the existing written document of the standards. So Water Quality 7 currently reads that we should support actions to reduce the extent and distribution of algae in the nearshore. And in our discussions with the Science Advisory Council, they suggested removing the support actions to clarify that the intent of the agency is not just to support actions, but actually to reduce algae. That's consistent with how we've been evaluating that standard and threshold evaluations, but it could be considered a modification to clarify the intent of the standard. With that, I will conclude my presentation, open it up to any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Shelley, go ahead.
Thank you, Dan. I just had a question. In fact, you just alluded to it as an objective in connection with water quality, reducing the extent and distribution of excessive periphyton. How do you quantify that, the word excessive?
Appreciate the question, Dan Segan. We have not defined that. That is not a specific and measurable standard. As part of the threshold update initiative, we have been cautious in making changes and removing standards where we can't replace it with a specific and measurable standard. And so about 3 years ago now, we embarked on a new nearshore algae monitoring program that we think will allow us the information to actually set a quantifiable standard for nearshore algae.
So this is just kind of an interim standard.
I would say it's an interim standard that we've had on the books for 40 years to preserve that intent.
So for being interim, okay, all right. But we hope for more specificity in the future, right? Okay, great, thanks.
Other questions or comments from the board? Cody?
Yeah, I think this is great work. I'm curious with microplastics, and I know that there's some water sample test done, but is there any threshold that's directly relating to microplastics, where we're at, where we're heading?
Dan Segan again, appreciate the question. There is not a specific standard right now related to microplastics. Microplastics factor into the fine particle discussion related to mid-lake clarity and nearshore clarity, but there's not a specific standard.
And then I guess the SecuDisc I know has been great in what we're using, but is science moving to where, you know, water tests and water samples are starting to show exactly what it is that is creating the clarity issue, and we're able to start tracking that? Or are we still quite a ways out from like a water sample really defining what it is that's creating the clarity issue?
Dan Segan again, I appreciate the question. So we measure the clarity of the lake in a number of different ways. Even though our standard is pegged as a SecuDisc, we also use a laser, to more accurately measure the refraction of particles within the lake and its impact on clarity. Part of the measurements that our partners do and part of the augmented monitoring that we're considering right now as part of a Science Advisory Council RFP is to do more detailed measurement on which particles exactly are most responsible for clarity loss in which particular season, because we think that varies through time. We think sometimes the fine inorganic particles are more responsible for clarity loss, and we think during other seasons, it's actually organic particles within the lake. I think that research is also examining other drivers that impact clarity. You remember probably from the State of the Lake presentation that changes in the water column and specifically changes in the temperature of the lake and the gradient of different layers in the lake have a large impact on clarity. So there's robust efforts to understand or continue to refine our understanding of what most impacts clarity.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board? Not seeing any online, not seeing any. Okay, you guys, we have 2 motions to make in this section. If anyone is ready, I'm looking for the first motion that is up on the screen.
Madam Chair, a
a motion to approve the required findings, attachment A, including a finding of no significant effect.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, Maria, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Aldine,
Yes.
Mr. Bass,
Yes.
Ms. Aber,
Yes.
Ms. Conrad Seda,
Yes.
Ms. Hill,
Yes.
Ms. Faustinos,
Yes.
Mr. Keykeper,
Yes.
Ms. Holloway,
Yes.
Mr. Rice,
Yes.
Mr. Henigman,
Yes.
Mr. Settlemeyer,
Yes.
Ms. Lane,
Yes.
Ms. Loomer,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. And the second motion, please?
Madam Chair, a motion to adopt ordinance 2026, amending ordinance 2019-03, attachment B, updating the water quality environmental threshold carrying capacities, attachment C.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Maria, can you please call the roll again?
Ms. Aldine,
Yes.
Mr. Bass,
Yes.
Ms. Aber,
Yes.
Ms. Conrad Seda,
Yes.
Ms. Hill,
Yes.
Ms. Faustinos,
Yes.
Mr. Keykeper,
Yes.
Ms. Holloway,
Yes.
Mr. Rice,
Yes.
Mr. Henigman,
Yes.
Mr. Settlemeyer,
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Lane,
Yes.
Ms. Loomer,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. Let's move on then to agenda item 8B, which is the update to the forest health and vegetation preservation environmental threshold carrying capacities, part of the threshold standards, information on page 227. And I believe I'm turning it over to Dan or Mason. Mason, I think. All right. Thanks, Mason. Take it away.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Julie Reagan, again, for the record, as Mason is getting situated. I also will do a quick tee up for his presentation. I want to go back to the science of our last threshold evaluation report, which you acted on last year, and it was data collected through 2023. It feels like a long time ago, and I want to take us back in time to think of what was going on in terms of fire in our surrounding area. We had the Loyalton and Creek fires in 2020, Tamarack and Dixie fires in 2021, which were extremely devastating, the Oak and Mosquito fires in 2022, and then, of course, the Caldor fire of 2021, which burned into the basin to the tune of about 10,000 acres over a 220,000 acre fire. Many of you sitting at the dais, our staff, many members of our community had to evacuate. Something we'll never forget for the rest of our lives. Science shows that forest thinning implemented by the Tahoe Fire and Fuels teams meaningfully influence the fire behavior and outcomes of that Caldor fire. The threshold evaluation highlighted how smoke from those other wildfires also affected air quality in Tahoe, which was horrendous. It is no surprise that during the threshold evaluation public engagement process, forest health, wildfire, and evacuation were among the top themes we heard from the public, and that we should be focusing on that. I will leave it to Mason Bindle, who will go through the details of the science and the proposal before you. But a major takeaway I wanted to flag in this introduction is that for the first time, we are addressing the concerns of the community, the Bi-State Fire Commission that came after the Angora wildfire, to consider a new threshold for community wildfire protection. That standard, as well as the fire standard for the general forest, acknowledges that what we already know, that fire is a part of our ecosystem, and it is not a question of if another fire will hit, it's a question of when. And so how will we be prepared? I'd also like to thank the Tahoe Science Advisory Council. You heard testimony from Bob Larson, the program officer, and many other additional scientists that participated in the scientific rigor behind the proposal before you. And I will now turn it over to Mason Bindle.
Thank you, Julie, for that introduction. Madam Chair, members of the governing board, Mason Bindle, TRPA staff for the record. So I'm here today to continue the conversation we began a few months ago to update and formally present a proposal to update our TRPA's vegetation preservation threshold standards. As Dan mentioned, many of these standards have been on the books for 45 years and the vegetation preservation thresholds in particular came about during a time of rapid growth when the main concern was protecting vegetation from development pressure. So that framework succeeded in its goal in regional planning capped development and helped prevent the widespread loss of vegetation. But today, the greatest threats to Tahoe's forests are much different. Catastrophic wildfire, prolonged drought, beetle outbreaks, and rapidly changing climate are all threatening the integrity of our forest. So this update modernizes our vegetation preservation thresholds to reflect these realities and clearly defines what a healthy, resilient forest should look like in the Tahoe Basin. Next slide, please. As Julie mentioned, we're all aware of the 2007 Angora fire as a turning point in the basin. While the work to restore forests was already underway at that time, that fire really forced a hard realization. In a fire-dependent landscape like Tahoe, stepping back from active management left our communities and forests more vulnerable. So in response to the fire, the governors of California and Nevada formed the Emergency Bi-State Fire Commission to understand what went wrong and what needed to change. The commission engaged residents, firefighters, scientists, and land managers from across the basin before advancing solutions. The TRPA was an active and willing participant in this process, and the commission's 90 recommendations laid the foundation for nearly 2 decades of policy reform and ushered in a new era of bi-state cooperation on forest health and wildfire resilience work. So since then, more than 100,000 acres have been treated across the basin, with $270 million invested in on-the-ground forest restoration and wildfire resilience work. And this update really builds on that legacy, right? Helping us track the outcomes of that work and ensuring our thresholds reflect how Tahoe forests are being managed today. Next slide, please. So following your direction and the feedback highlighted in the 2023 threshold evaluation, updating vegetation preservation thresholds to address wildfire risk and support forest health was elevated as a priority in the 2025-2026 work plan. So this proposal updates the threshold system to reflect the risks we just talked about and aligns with ongoing work across the basin that's happening through our environmental improvement program partnerships. These updates will help highlight the work TRPA has supported through the EIP's Forest Restoration Program and Community Wildfire Protection Program. From the Angora Fire and the Blue Ribbon Commission to the more recent forest restoration projects like the Lake Tahoe West Restoration Project that's about to get underway on the West Shore. So this will really focus on tracking measurable outcomes for healthier forests and safer communities. Next slide, please. So I won't go into the deep dive we did with the EIP committee in TUISWIG last month and at APC a couple weeks ago, but I will just kind of give the high level overview of what the proposal consists of. So we're really introducing 2 new main subcategories under the vegetation preservation category, and each with 2 standards plus a 5th standard that'll help add protections for subalpine conifers. So the first subcategory, fire dynamics, really is modeled fire hazard to determine expected fire behavior. So near our communities and evacuation routes in the wildland urban interface defense zone, the standard aims to keep fires on the ground and manageable. And then across the broader landscape, the other standard in this category is going to set limits to prevent large areas of high severity fire that cause that lasting damage to the ecosystem. The second subcategory, forest structure, is going to set measurable targets for tree density and canopy closure. And the other standard that there will set targets for a healthy mix of developmental stages, those serial stages that are in your packet. And so those will help forests achieve that resilience against the drought, insects, and wildfire we talked about. And the 5th standard will add protections for the ecological integrity of our subalpine forests, the threatened white bark pine, and the forests at the higher elevations at risk of climate change. So together, these standards will provide a way to measure both forest processes and condition and offer a clear target to track progress using the best available science. Next slide, please. So these standards didn't just come together overnight. Over the past 8 months, we've conducted more than 20 briefings with partners and TRPA committees to share the proposal, gather feedback, and refine our approach. We work closely with the Tahoe Fire and Fuels team and the partner agencies to ground the proposal in the latest science and relevant land management policies. So earlier this winter, the proposal went through that formal peer review that Bob mentioned with the Threshold Update Initiative Stakeholder Working Group participating in many meetings over the last 7 years on forest health thresholds, and the Tahoe Science Advisory Council providing that backbone of peer review support. So the result is a set of standards that are scientifically sound, operationally realistic, and aligned with the work already happening on the ground. So this will be practical, specific, and measurable outcome-based thresholds. Next slide, please. And alignment was a priority throughout this process. As mentioned, we coordinated with the Tahoe Fire and Fuels team to ensure these standards were operationally realistic for the crews on the ground and the work they're trying to achieve. And then we coordinated with state and local land managers to ensure consistency with their land management plans, like the multi-jurisdictional fuel strategy that was adopted last year with the Tahoe Fire and Fuels team. So the takeaway here is that these standards complement the ongoing work across the basin and provide a way for us and our partners to track that progress toward that healthy, resilient forest. Next slide, please. Yeah, an independent peer review was a core part of developing these standards. As Bob mentioned, we'd like to thank Dr. Pat Manley and Dr. Hugh Safford for their thoughtful review, and Bob Larson himself for facilitating that process through the Tahoe Science Advisory Council. The reviewers supported the proposal and the overall framework and included and helped us refine the thresholds to account for a warmer, drier future, setting our targets lower so that these standards remain germane into a warmer, drier future with climate change. And they also highlighted where additional metrics could help us track progress towards attainment and of these proposed thresholds. So this feedback has already been incorporated into the proposal in front of you today, but we'll also integrate that into future monitoring and performance measures, particularly in how we ground truth the remote sensing data to track the forest conditions and the fire behavior over the long term. Next slide, please. It was equally important to us that the public understand these standards and why they matter. So in addition to the technical memo in your packet, we prepared a website, public-facing website at trpa.gov/forest thresholds to explain the proposal and gather feedback from the community. 3 key themes emerged with that feedback. So the public generally supports active forest management. Wildfire mitigation remains the top priority, and people want to know how they can help, especially on their own properties. So this engagement helped confirm not only that the science was relevant and these standards were operationally feasible, but that they reflected the community's priorities. Next slide, please. So to recap, we are asking you to consider 5 proposed standards detailed in attachment B, and I'll just go through the cliff notes here quickly. So VP8 is going to focus on protecting the ecological integrity of the subalpine conifer forests, like the threatened, endangered, or threatened federally listed white bark pine. And that really gives us comprehensive protections from the ridge, our highest elevation forest, down to the lake, the forest, like the yellow pine and the Sierra mixed conifer. VP9 will set a target of 75% of the forest being in that desired developmental stage, that healthy mix we need to be resilient to the stressors that the forests face. VP10 will aim for 50% of the forest to fall within the healthy stand density ranges, helping forests build resilience against that drought, insect, and wildfire threat. And then under the fire dynamics category, VP11 will target surface fire behavior across 90% of the wildland urban interface defense zone, keeping fires manageable near our communities and evacuation routes. VP12 will then aim to limit large, high severity fires to less than 5% of the broader landscape. So that'll help protect against those catastrophic ecological outcomes that we see with high severity fire, but it'll allow for natural fire to play its ecological role. So these standards are clear, measurable, and forward-looking, giving us benchmarks to track that real progress toward that healthy, resilient forest and safer communities. Next slide, please. So before we open it up for questions and discussion, I just want to highlight the formal review that Julie mentioned. The proposal has already gone through. So about a month ago, the final meeting with the Threshold Update Stakeholder Working Group was to recommend the proposal. A couple of days later, we brought the proposal to the EIP committee at last governing board. They unanimously recommended as well. And then 2 weeks ago, the Advisory Planning Commission recommended to move the proposal forward. And we'd also like to thank the folks that supported us with letters of recommendation, the Tahoe Fire and Fuels team, the Tahoe Fire Chiefs Association, and the League to Save Lake Tahoe have all been supportive of this process and put formal letters of recommendation in the record and helped us shape the proposal. And I welcome any thoughts from those board members who participated in EIP committee or TUI SWIG. They've been instrumental in help shaping this process. So if I missed anything, feel free to jump in as we open it up for discussion and questions. Next slide, please. So with that, thank you, and we'll open it up for questions.
Thanks, Mason. Questions or comments from the board? Ben?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to really more than anything offer a compliment to the document in our packet that starts on 262. It's the Forest Health Threshold Standards prepared update. I don't know. I assume that was created by you since it's got our logo on the top. I am no scientist, as everyone knows, but this was a very, I think, useful document to explain very comprehensively, but also simply what we were doing, why we were doing it, and why it was going to be helpful, which was on point for my baseload science knowledge. So I'm very grateful.
Mason Bindle, same. I struggled following the science, but that document that Dan and I put together was, really was possible because of the scientific review through the Tahoe Science Advisory Council.
I appreciate that. And I guess as a question, as a part of the standards, is there, and the update with this, particularly with, sort of manage in that, urban wildland interface, and the need to do, further management of those areas? Was there any review of challenges to accessing those, whether that be funding, whether that be ownership of property, things like that, to ensure that, we can achieve some of the standards and goals that are outlined?
That's a great question, Mason Bindle, for the record. So we shaped that standard by looking at the multi-jurisdictional fuel strategy that the Tahoe Fire and Fuels team put out last year. And there's a lot of detail in that document about how they plan to achieve keeping surface fire as the expected outcome within a quarter mile of structures and evacuation routes. We don't intend to be prescriptive with our standards here. We intend to just be outcome based and track the progress. But I think if we look to the multi-jurisdictional fuel strategy, that detail you're looking for is there.
I do have maybe a follow-up question. I think mine was similar of just, great science, great effort on these standards. The connection then between that science and how it gets implemented, I think, is my big question of, as land managers, how is this information being translated to our regional partners, but also I think as we look at property owners in the basin, we have defensible space inspection requirements, at least in Placer, on short-term rentals. So just, wanting to be able to take this science and digest it and then, bring it forward to those that are actually on the ground required to do the work or actively doing the work.
Yeah, great question. I think that what we're proposing here is directly in line with how they want to measure the outcomes of the work they're doing. So again, we don't want to be prescriptive on how they get it done. That's not the role for the threshold standards, but the tracking is the same data that they'll use to track those outcomes that they're looking to achieve through their project implementation. And the thresholds really build on what the Community Wildfire Protection Program under the EIP umbrella aims to achieve, in the way that those funding mechanisms and projects get implemented is kind of through the EIP, and the thresholds then are just the ultimate measure of the progress, status, and trend. So really just the alignment between how we measure is surface fire the most likely outcome in the defense zone. It aligns with how the projects aim to achieve that outcome. So I'm not quite sure how to articulate that. Do you have further? No.
Kim Carringer for the record. I will just add, it's a good segue on the EIP umbrella, because I think these standards set the trajectory and the goals for all of the implementers, the scientists, us all working together. The Tahoe Fire and Fuels team has 21 different entities working together to now they've got a really good roadmap on, as far as achieving those thresholds. So that group meets often on how much funding do we need? What are our biggest priorities? What is the best bang for our buck to achieve thresholds? And that we all work together to advocate for the funding to get that work done from many different sources, federal, state, local, private. So I think the threshold decision today will help make that roadmap clear. And every year it's just working together to try to get the priority set, the funding set, and the work on the ground set. So that helps.
Any other questions from the board, Alex?
Not as much a question, but a comment. Is that okay? I was just looking through the air quality discussion and really appreciated you guys calling out the importance of doing like prescribed and cultural fire. And that while short term, that does, create a little bit of smoke in the air, it's nothing compared to the mega fires that would come otherwise. And these are really important tools. And we're seeing this conversation come up in California more. We're trying to pass legislation to make this easier to do. So there have been liability funds, there have been, streamlining for burn bosses. There's 2 bills this year codifying Governor Newsom's executive order on beneficial fire that came out last year, and also trying to create more direct funding to do that. So just really happy to say that that's called out. I mean, all sorts of proactive forest management is important, but having cultural and prescribed fire on the ground is going to be really key as well. So thank you for that.
Shelley? And then, I'm sorry, James.
Gentlemen first.
James and then Shelley.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Chair. It was a question dealing with stand density. I thought there was some conflict that we were discussing at DCNR, and I'm trying to remember what that was with state lands. Do we have everything in alignment there to the best of our knowledge?
Yeah, we reached out to the forester at Nevada Division of State Lands to confirm that the targets we're setting, the way we measure are substantively different, but aligned and not conflicting. So we clarified that.
Okay, I guess. So from what I'm reading is that for early Cyril Jeffrey pine forest, TRPA has proposed a set threshold of maximum of 200 trees per acre. Is that correct? Because I think that's on page, is that 270 or am I reading the wrong thing?
Yeah, that should be correct. Let me get to that page.
The NRS requires a minimum threshold of 250 trees per acre, no later than 5 years post logging of trees at least 6 inches in height. I guess what I'm sensing is, do we have a conflict with Nevada revised statutes compared to what we're proposing at this point in time?
The devil's in the details there. Dan can elaborate a little bit, but the conversation basically got down to the diameter of tree measured. So the Nevada Division of State Lands measurement, correct me if I'm wrong, I think is up to 4-inch trees. Our
4 inches
measure,
diameter, yes.
yeah, our measure for the maximum is 6 to 10 inches. So I think we're fundamentally measuring different things because of the remote sensing tool we're using to assess this standard. So I don't think it conflicts, and that's where we landed with their forester, Anna Higgins.
Correct. And that's what I'm trying to raise to make sure that those issues are concerned. We could always try to adjust our NRS after the fact, but me and a few people in this room understand how fun that is. So I guess that's what I'm just kind of trying to figure out, as long as we have pretty good assertion that it's, so basically it was a measuring issue, the way we measure it compared to you.
If I could jump in quickly, Dan Segan
Thank you,
again.
Dan.
The NRS is a minimum stocking density that's measured as the forester walks along on the site. And as a result of walking along the site, I think they have greater ability to measure every stem. So that 250 stem stocking density that that you need to achieve that minimum stocking density, because we're using regional scale data sets and regional scale measurements, we're generally not even picking up trees that small. So when we reviewed it, it looked like they're basically strangers in the night, because we wouldn't pick up all of those trees within our measurement. So there could still be 250. I mean, those are relatively small trees that wouldn't even show up in our 200 count that we're looking at for the overall density.
I appreciate that clarification. So in essence, basically, Nevada does a much better job at counting trees. Okay, thank you.
I don't mean to.
Shelley?
Thank you. So just, I noticed we've eliminated a section on page 270, 237, late Cyril and old growth forest ecosystems. Then you have on the previous page, the Cyril stage, and we've got 3 categories of trees in the late Cyril stage. Do those account for the old growth basically in the basin? And does that include the ponderosa pine?
They do. Yep. So Jeffrey pine covers all of the yellow pines, including ponderosa.
Okay.
And the intent of that standard, those standards that are going away, are now folded into the Cyril stage and canopy cover standard, and as a more holistic picture of the entire mix of developmental stages we want. So not only late Cyril, but what proportion should be mid, or what proportion should be early young trees, as Director Sotomayor mentioned. So it actually, the ranges changed a bit, but overall, there's what we feel is more protection for late Cyril. More late Cyril is recommended on the landscape based on the science review we went through. So that standard's intent is folded in.
Okay, because the trees are aging just like the rest of us.
Yep.
Okay.
Totally.
Other questions or comments from the board? And online, and if I see none, I'm also looking for 2 motions on this one. You get those up on the screen. The first one, if anyone, please.
A motion to approve the required findings, including a finding of no significant effect as shown in attachment A.
Thank you. We have a motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Maria, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Aldine,
Yes.
Mr. Bass,
Yes.
Ms. Aber,
Yes.
Ms. Conrad Seda,
Yes.
Ms. Hill,
Yes.
Ms. Faustinos,
Yes.
Mr. Keycapper,
Yes.
Ms. Holloway,
Yes.
Mr. Rice,
Yes.
Mr. Henigman,
Yes.
Mr. Settlemyre,
Yes.
Miss Lane,
Yes.
Miss Loomer,
Yes.
Miss Williamson,
Yes.
Madam Chair, motion passes.
Thank you. And I'm looking for the second motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A motion to adopt ordinance 2026 dash. What would that be?
Just dash blank.
Yes.
Okay, amending ordinance 1903 attachment D, updating vegetation preservation environmental threshold carrying capacities as presented in attachment B.
Thank you.
And I'm very grateful that the clarification was done that this is not in conflict with Nevada revised statutes. Thank you.
Thank you. And that we got on the record that Nevada's better at counting trees. That's equally important. We have a motion. Any further discussion? Maria, can you please call the roll again?
Miss Aldine,
Yes.
Mr. Bass,
Yes.
Miss Aber,
Yes.
Miss Conrad Seda,
Yes.
Miss Hill,
Yes.
Miss Faustinos,
Yes.
Mr. Keycapper,
Yes.
Miss Holloway,
Yes.
Mr. Rice,
Yes.
Mr. Henigman,
Yes.
Mr. Settlemeyer,
Yes.
Miss Lane,
Yes.
Miss Loomer,
Yes.
Miss Williamson,
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. That takes us to our next agenda item, which is agenda item 9, reports. I will turn it over to Director Reagan and our general counsel to give our executive director and general counsel status reports, please.
Thank you. Congratulations, team. This was Mason's 21st or 22nd presentation, right? 22nd, so well done. 20 seconds a charm. All right, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, and the staff and the public. I'm Julie Reagan, TRPA's Executive Director. I'm going to take item 9A and A1 together. And just before I get into a brief report, I wanted just to thank you all for your dedication to getting us through these threshold updates over the last couple of years. I want to thank also the community who has engaged in a productive way. I want to thank those members of the public who were very respectful in their comments today. Civil discourse is challenged nationally. And I also want to thank a representative of the Douglas County Sheriff's Office that was in the room today, because I want to reemphasize to you as the policy leaders in the basin that your safety, the safety of our staff, the safety of the community who engage here in person in the room is our top priority. And so I just really appreciate the thoughtful way that was all approached as a part of the proceeding. So with that, we'll go into this picture, which says it all. This time last week, this was what all of us were doing up in the basin. It was a lot of snow in a very quick period of time, not just here in the basin, but all around the region. And it was nice to see that nice big snow. I will say the note that Jeff Cowan, our public information officer, sent out to you with some media clips, as he often does a couple times of month. He mentioned certainly something that's heavy on the hearts of all of the TRPA folks, and that is the tragic avalanche that happened over on the North Shore. We have a lot, it's a small community in Tahoe related to backcountry enthusiasm, and our staff have been affected, know one of the survivors of the avalanche. It's got a big reach in our region in terms of the impact of this tragedy. And so just wanted to recognize our hearts are with the families and everyone that's affected by that terrible tragedy. But it is a sad reminder that, we live in an area that is full of extremes. We were in a pretty dry spell for the last month, and then we had this giant snow, 5 feet of snow at my Christmas Valley home in a matter of 30 hours. So that was unbelievable. I will take the next slide and just say the picture on the left, I actually took out of an airplane, believe it or not. For all of you who fly into Washington, which I know most of you do, it's kind of rare to get an approach over Reagan National Airport, DCA, that is like spot on, where you see this beautiful scene with the monuments, the Washington Monument, Lincoln, and the reflecting pond, reflecting pool. It just lined up. But the sad truth of that day, which was February 10th, was that they had more snow than we did at that point. And when Washington has more snow on the ground than Lake Tahoe, you're like, what is going on? So Mother Nature took care of that the following week. But I did want to share a really exciting update around the Santini-Burton Modernization Act, which many of you have engaged with. our team and Team Tahoe, the broad partnership that's advocating at the national level for Lake Tahoe. And a big thanks to our delegation, Senator Cortez Masto. On the Senate side, has been leading S3695, invited me to come and testify week before last, and I was honored to do it on behalf of Team Tahoe. And our entire delegation is behind this bipartisan bicameral bill to update the Santini-Burton Act, which goes all the way back to 1980. In explaining this to our staff and to the public, Santini and Burton were real people. Jim Santini, member of Congress in Nevada, who actually, interestingly, had the last statewide House seat after his tenure finished in the Congress. Nevada went to 2 congressional districts. It only had 1 at the time. In 1980, he represented the entire state in the House of Representatives in Nevada. And Phil Burton, who was in the California side. And they had the idea that land sales in Southern Nevada of BLM excess federal lands could be sold to benefit the environment of Tahoe and to buy up for conservation purposes lands in Tahoe to take development pressure off the table. And the Forest Service acquired 16,000 acres over the course of many years. Big success. What happened in a subsequent amendment to future legislation, the Southern Nevada Public Land Management Act, a glitch happened where that money cannot be used for maintenance of those lands. So right now, the Forest Service can only use those funds, which are, as I reported last month in our director's report, are sitting in an account that they cannot access for maintenance of any of those parcels. So we're trying to fix that. At the time of 1980, the Washoe tribe wasn't even mentioned in this act. And so we've been actively engaged in a very productive way with the tribe, the Washoe tribe of Nevada and California, to bring them into the conversation. And they will be a part of this bill and are obviously very supportive of that. So really proud of the work. I mean, it's the first step to get the bill introduced and to have a hearing. A long way to go to make that law, but really appreciate the partnership around Tahoe that's been working for actually about 2 or 3 years on this. I will take the next slide, switching to another big need around invasive species. A big thank you to the Operations and Governance Committee. Member Lane, the chair of that committee, gave a great report as part of the consent calendar. But I did want to highlight a couple of things from the discussion this morning at the Operations Committee. This map I thought was really interesting because it's a map of North America. The kind of beige color are all the areas that have some detection of invasive species, quagga mussels. So it might be one lake in one state that turns that map that beige color, but you can see the majority of North America, there's only a handful of states in the United States that don't have detections. And look at the other big lines going to the lake. We have boats even from Alaska that are coming into Lake Tahoe. So you can see all of the boats that are coming from all around the country and from North America. So the threat is real. We assess that risk, and our team is like the gold standard. Nationally, Dennis Abaglo actually is in Washington this week. They just did a congressional briefing yesterday on Capitol Hill with the Invasive Species Caucus of the Congress to talk about our Western states partnerships, because Lake Tahoe is a leader, but we're only as safe as other lakes as well. And so working together is essential. And I want to thank this board for taking a bold step to require decontaminations for any visiting boat. It was a big step last year. We're continuing it. We revised the fee schedule to better incentivize boats to come clean, drained, and dry, to give them a discount. But the way we've restructured the fees, I thank you for the question, Madam Chair, and the consent calendar discussion. It won't compromise our schedule. In fact, we think it's going to continue to move us in the direction of cost recovery for this important program, which is federally funded, state funded through appropriations of both states, California and Nevada, through TRPA, as well as boater fees. It's kind of the heart and soul of the EIP, public-private partnership to protect the lake. And of course, our partnership with the Tahoe Conservation District is second to none in terms of implementing at the inspection stations and the rovers that have been now going out to beaches for non-motorized. So thank you for your action on that. Also, next slide, thank you for your action on the Tahoe Basin Public Safety Training Complex. Just wanted to show you a couple of images of what that might look like. And certainly Mr. Mayor and the city, Member Bass, is very familiar with that. It's a major tool for workforce development in our community, in the city and in our greater community. And it also provides a pipeline of students that are coming through that and cadets to actually fight in fires. And so it's wonderful that we were able to work with the community college, consistent in a manner that we did with the student housing project. There's considerable state monies from California that are coming in. And the majority of projects that are funded through California do not have snow on the ground for 6 months of the year. And so there's an expectation that you need to spend this money. You need to spend it yesterday. They want to do a groundbreaking. And so our staff, Brandy McMahon and many other staff members here at TRPA rose to that challenge and did a very thorough and thoughtful review, but we were able to move that through so that they could break ground this summer. So pretty exciting development here on the South Shore, but will benefit the region and beyond Tahoe. The next item is just a big thank you to our team who pulled together the annual report, which is at your place at the dais. And the annual report is a document that we've been able to do for quite a long time. When I joined the agency, gosh, all the way back in 2003, there was no such document. There was no amass of information that showed progress and challenge of what we're up to at the agency. And I couldn't be prouder of this year. Our new member, Thea Schwartz, who just joined the team less than a year ago, took that on from the communications department to interact with every single department to amass the data, to present it to you in a way that's not a 1,000-page document, but rather a scannable, graphics, graphically friendly, user-friendly fashion to highlight some of the important work that our team is doing, not just here at TRPA, but across the whole spectrum of the partnership in Team Tahoe, because what we have in terms of the unique responsibility of the compact is setting these thresholds, which you just updated today. We are accountable to those thresholds and to achieve and maintain, but we don't implement many of the projects. All of the constituents and representatives that you represent do. Some of your organizations do implement, and it's across 80 different partners. So really hope that you get a chance to look at that. And we're going to talk more about some of that in our governing board retreat coming up in a couple of months. It is Best in the Basin season, so please send notifications to your staff members, to your constituents. We want to get a big entry cadre of projects that we can recognize here at the governing board level to show, again, the best of the best in how we advance our goals collectively in those various areas. We have a category that we actually added after the Angora fire for forest health and defensible space to recognize many individuals and homeowners associations that are going at great length and at great expense to make their individual communities safer, to do the home hardening that's necessary to position us to be better prepared when that next fire hits. So there's also a category for science and innovation. There is a great interest in this program. We've been doing it for 30 years, but we have to kind of push it out there because people are busy. So please help us remind folks to put in their nominations, and we're excited to bring that to you later in the year. I want to say a big thank you to our team that worked on the new agenda. And how did you all like the agenda? Head nods. Okay, so a nice little graphic here. It might be hard to see on the screen, but if you look at the big picture, that's our new agenda. Very nice, easy to read. Look at the one on the left, and you might think that was maybe from last year. It's actually from 1978. It did not change from the 60s and 70s until today. So I want to acknowledge the team that worked with modernizing our standards today, but also how we communicate through our agendas. Interestingly, I went back in the minutes of this meeting in 1978, and one of the transportation projects is listed there for Crystal Bay. And it was like, we've been working on transportation in Tahoe for decades. That was 1978. So I wanted to dwell on that in a way that shows like we are taking seriously your admonition to modernize, to lean in on science, to do better in terms of our community engagement, our transparency. A big thank you to Kim Carringer and the communications team, the agenda squad, Catherine Houston and Maria and Tracy, and many people worked not only with TRPA staff, but with the community. And we heard comments from people who follow our agendas every month. And so an idea there in the middle is a QR code that we are going to put around the basin. And that was one public comment specifically said, why don't you put that code all around at the post offices so it's evergreen? You don't have to change it every month necessarily, but that would link someone to your website where they can get the latest in terms of what meetings are happening at the basin. So we tried our best to take suggestions from the community that are paying attention to our agendas, and we've modified that over the last several months. So thank you all for the hard work on that. And Thea Schwartz, who I mentioned with the annual report, is pictured on the right. She did an incredible video of how to make a public comment. And so we just did a very nice short video that she socialized out on our channels and Instagram to demystify the process of coming to make a public comment. For some people that aren't in the business that all of you are in, or in the public sphere, it can be intimidating to make a public comment. So we're trying to make it easier and show people how simple it can be. And I do want to remind anyone that has difficulty with voice comments to submit written comments. We take written comments online. They can be emailed in addition to being in person to make a public comment or on Zoom. So what's coming up? We've covered some of this in previous meetings, but since a lot of snow has happened in the meantime, I wanted to refresh your memories. In March, we're actually having a regional planning committee meeting, and we're going to hear a briefing on the plans for the Tahoe Keys Marina redevelopment project that some of you toured recently on a field tour. We also are really excited for El Dorado County, the team to come and talk about their latest area plan update. It's called the TED plan, the El Dorado County Area Plan. A lot of really important work underway there. We have appeals, this one coming back, and some others that our legal and compliance teams have been working on for months. And then please mark your calendar for May, a 2-day meeting in May. We will be having our regular business on Wednesday and the strategic planning session. Looks like we are close to locking in at Grand Labakan. So we'll be 2 days, both days there. And so I'm sure we'll be leaning in on our Placer County colleagues to help us make that a really meaningful and productive 2-day session for you. What comes out of the May retreat and strategic planning session, we will feed into our work plan and budget development and be bringing that back to you in June for your action and consideration. And then a big thank you to Member Hill, who was the chair of the Transportation Committee, and Vice Chair Bass of that committee, who had a big discussion around transportation and funding, because we also have a regional plan policy around vehicle miles traveled and standards of significance around that. And we'll be bringing that back to you in future months for some additional discussion and potential action from the board. With that, I am concluding my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, members of the board. I'm due to give you a litigation update, in part because there's a new lawsuit before the agency. On Monday, we were served with a lawsuit filed in Federal District Court of Nevada challenging the board's adoption or the board's approval of the amendments to the Washoe Tahoe Area Plan that we did in December. This petition generally alleges that TRPA did not adequately analyze wildfire and evacuation impacts and challenges the environmental documentation supporting that approval. This was filed by Mr. Doug Flaherty, who's representing himself, and we'll be reviewing that complaint. It just came in Monday for us, and we'll begin coordinating our response, and of course keep the board updated as the case progresses. And just with any litigation, it's always our responsibility to, if there's litigation pending, to preserve records that may be relevant, and that's just a general requirement with litigation. But also, as our staff begins preparing an administrative record, we will need to reach out and make sure that we've gotten records that might be out there from board members. So just wanted to make you aware of that. And then just our 3 other active litigation cases, I can update you at this time. One is, as you know, is the last year the board upheld a denial of a request for a buoy permit. It was a non-littoral buoy, and this man, Mr. Bryan, he's also representing himself. He's sued the agency for that denial, and it's his second go around We've dealt with his case before, and we're continuing to deal with that. He made some motions for discovery that would have gone beyond the administrative record, wanted to depose our director and myself, and we defeated those motions and we're going to be moving for summary judgment soon. And then also the other case that we're in a defendant setting is the Eisenstecken case. We've had discussions about settlement discussions since late last summer. Some of the legal committee has been part of those discussions. That has continued to evolve, and we are still there's still potential for potential settlement, and I'm optimistic about that. And I hope to have something more in the near future. If we don't settle, our briefing schedule kicks back up in April. So maybe hope to hear more from that in the near future. And then lastly, just a quick update on the one case where we are a plaintiff, and that's the enforcement action against the unauthorized boat rental operators. We hired a new private investigator, and we finally were successful in serving the last remaining party at his house in Folsom. And today is actually the day that they're due to answer our complaint. We are watching to see if that happens. In the past, in a different, very closely related case with similar defendants, they didn't respond and we moved for default. So things are moving forward with that case. And I want to also report some good news on that our legal staff has been working with the online platform that the operators have been using to rent their boats. And they have been very cooperative and shown a great willingness to work with us on getting those boats off of that platform, helping us to enforce the court's order. So a lot of things going on with our litigation, and we'll continue to deal with these. Thanks.
Thank you, Graham. Haley, I'll just step out of the room momentarily. So we'll move on to agenda item number 10, governing board member reports. Does any member of the board have any report to share with the board? So yes, Alex.
I can just say quickly. So California legislature is back in session. The deadline to introduce bills was last Friday. So I think, as folks get a chance to weed through them, we'll see a lot of bills impacting the Tahoe region. Like I mentioned before, there's, I think, already a dozen bills on wildfire and home hardening and beneficial fire. And there's going to be one on wildlife coexistence. So I think we'll, in the next month, we'll have more to report back on that. Budget hearings will start, I think they start this week. So the governor proposed his budget in January. The legislature now begins their process to start reviewing and, kind of considering their positions. We should have somewhat of a finalized budget by the end of June. And for better or for worse, it'll all be over by the end of August. So that's it.
Any other governing member reports? All right. How about committee reports? Any committees have anything to report? Okay, then we'll move on then to our final public comment period. This is now the general public interest comment period. Any member of the public wishing to address the governing board on any item listed or not listed on the agenda, including items on the consent calendar, may do so at this time. Individuals or groups who have already commented on items listed on the agenda are not permitted to comment on that same topic. The governing board can only deliberate or act on items listed on the posted agenda. And finally, we will hear comments. We will limit comments to 3 minutes per speaker. Members in the room.
Hey, Madam Chair, if I may, this is General Counsel to TRPA. I just want to reiterate that I've advised the chair to cut off comments that are not audible. So if you're trying to make a comment from a very bad connection, that's the reason why we're gonna cut the comments. So I just wanted to put that out there. I've advised that if it's an inaudible comment, we're just gonna move on. Thanks.
Thank you. With that, is there anyone present in the room wishing to make comment? Seeing none, can we go online, please?
Madam Chair, there are no hands raised to comment.
All right. With that, you guys, we are adjourned at 12:24. Thanks.